Well, okay, so I'm arguing with someone about something dumb, which is, okay, answer me this. Do you know, okay, what is it called when obscurity in the surface layers of the atmosphere, which is caused by the suspension of water drops, is called? Fog. Okay? And then...
I'm trying to see where this is going.
No, because this is an argument, because I'm like, okay, what that sounds like, it sounds like a drop in temperature, and that's what's causing, like, clouds are coming down, and that's what's causing fog. All right? And they're arguing it's the other way. Fog is the rise is the from the ground. But no, that's mist. Like these news stories we missed at E3.
Oh my god. If there's anything that most people are going to remember, is just my face and the way I look after we launch these.
Oh yeah, anytime we go, oh my god.
I feel like people are going to watch this and be like, he's leading them in. Oh no.
Every time I lead you in.
Mm-hmm.
It's always something.
It's always something.
So what's up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of the podcast. Like always, I'm Jose, and on the other mic is Adrian.
What up?
E3 just occurred, and there's a lot of time where news stories are always coming out, but they're overshadowed because of the time that E3 by either impressions, previews, reviews. Even before E3, there's like impressions of our E3 impressions and stuff like that. Or leaks, or pre-E3 news. Whatever it is, there's always some news that gets overshadowed because E3 is such a big thing in the industry. So today we'll be covering a bunch of stories that you may have missed. Hence the clickbait title. Let's start with game announcements. These games came before E3, and I just want to give some credit to them. First off is a game that looks to be like a mix of the cel-shading look of Ni no Kuni with the Adventure of Legend of Zelda style. It's called Baldo. Square Enix also announced that Star Ocean is coming to PS4 and Nintendo with the remake of the PSP remake of that Star Ocean, called Star Ocean First Departure R. No release date yet, but yeah, remake of the first Star Ocean. Coming later this year, the team at WayForward announced a new Shantae game coming out on PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and Apple Arcade. Expect more news on that as the year continues. As for indie games, we got a game called Paparazzi. Take Pokemon Snap, add dogs. Done. Nice. There's also a deck-building roguelike game currently in beta known as Nowhere Profits. And I don't remember seeing this at E3 this year, but EA's indie game that they're helping publish, Sea of Solitude, is coming out July 5th. Other than that, Sega has also announced all the games for the Genesis Mini. There are also 2 AR games coming out soon, a Minecraft Earth, along with Dragon Quest Walks. And yeah, lastly, to come announcing news, is next year, by the publishers of Firewatch, Panic, comes a new handheld console. It has a black and white screen, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, headphone jack, USB-C port for battery, and a crank. 12 games total at launch for free, and Panic is calling that Season 1. So those are the games you missed. Have you taken a look at any of these? Or
that's weird.
What's weird? The crank?
Yeah,
It's so Panic. Strange. It's just like Panic is the publishers, and they're just like
the Firewatch. They just decided to make like their own little.
Yep. I can't remember what it's called. It is...
I think I find the name.
The Playdate.
Playdate.
Yep.
Oh, that's a cute name for it.
Yeah. There was a little bit of trouble with the name.
It looks like a mini little Game Boy, or like a BMO from Adventure Time, but yellow.
It kind of does, and it's so weird that it has a crank, but I'm also very interested in what does that crank do.
Maybe it powers it. Like you got to wind it up and then get the energy going.
No, it doesn't power it. They've specifically said, like, oh, the crank's not for power.
Then there's a game-based mechanic for the crank. That's a...
It's that, we're just gonna... Maybe it's like a scrolling level kind of thing that you have to do, like you scroll the crank. It's interesting.
No, it looks kind of cool. If anybody's looking at it right now, it's like a little yellow handheld system with a crank on the side.
Yeah, listeners, imagine a... almost squarish small handheld device that has like 2 buttons, a D-pad on the lower half. Right on the side of it is the crank, and there is a little screen that looks like it's like your picture-in-picture thing, you know, that happens when you do TV. Like, it's a yellow brick, and then picture-in-picture is your screen.
Oh, wow. I'm actually...
What's up?
The crank functions as a mechanic to move the game forward for some of them. Just looking at stuff, forward and reverse, it's like an extra piece of the game, like a button. We weren't kidding about the crank.
Is that what they say?
Yes.
Which article is that one? Polygon?
It's they actually have a page for Playdate. It's
like so they were like, you thought we were joking about this? No. It's so weird for seeing them go from like, hey, we're gonna publish Firewatch to, hey, we're making a handheld console kind of thing. They certainly cranked it up a notch.
I'll give you one day, but today is not that day. Today is not that day.
Other than that, okay, so E3 came, we saw a bunch of remakes. It's very weird that we're getting another remake for Star Ocean. It like from the first one, you know?
Yeah,
I think it's more weird that it's a remake of a remake.
Yeah, but it's also a huge game in line for them also. Because if Square has, say, basically the Final Fantasy series, Star Ocean was like their series on Enix after Dragon Quest. It was a big game for them.
It's one of those where I'm like, okay, maybe do a collection first or something.
No, man, they just want to go straight out. They're like, oh, we're gonna do it this way.
Yep. And other than that, like regarding this game announcements, the ones that I found interesting are like the indie ones, like Paparazzi.
I think Paparazzi is.
Yeah, it's a cute.
I love Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
So just, it's funny playing upon people's feelings for dogs.
Yeah, it's so if you're getting it and if you look at the trailer, just to let you know that it does look like there's some clipping. It does look like it's cel-shaded graphics because the dogs are on surfboards, and they do have a little bit of clipping, like their feet go through the surfboard. But if you position yourself just right, it looks like a dog riding a surfboard. Once again, cel-shaded graphics. I mean, it's very hard not to make it look good. And then Baldo, which is a weird name,
but it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, it looks
like
great.
A beautiful game.
I'm wondering when is it going to come out, because they haven't said it, and this is also from a developer that they released some games before, but it was like one of those, oh hey, these are the Android games we've made. When I was like looking them up, they don't have like an official website. They have a Facebook page for it, but yeah. And I'm like, you know,
it kind of looks like I can't remember the name of that game. No, well, I mean, it looks like in the graphic wise, but it looks like it kind of plays like a game that was exclusively on cell phone first. And that company made 2 games.
Is it that Zack and something Island for the Wii game?
No, there were newer games that were only not iOS, but they were cell phone games. Really good games.
Yeah.
I forgot the name. One of them started with a B. It was like Baldur or something.
Yeah, I'm a little worried also that they don't have a release date, because then it's going to come out and you're going to be like, you're not too sure. You're just going to be like, where's Baldo? And, you know, it's that situation.
You're just going to hopefully sometime soon. Looks like it's mostly complete, but I feel like they should tell some people so it doesn't get overlooked.
Yeah. Also, everyone, this may be a shorter or longer episode. We're not too sure yet because of this news. That's all the game announcements that kind of was before E3 and you may miss. Let's jump into the industry news, though.
Industry.
Okay. First off, this could be a sign of the times or maybe just how the game industry goes. The online Ouya store is closing down, or maybe close if you're watching this after June 25th. Razer will be closing that at that date, and manufacturing for the console ended on July 2015. Do you want to discuss about this or just like move on? It's one of those where like the Ouya is weird.
When it came out, I didn't take interest in it.
It was that major Kickstarter thing, but this is not the first time an online store is closed, especially Razer. They closed their Razer gaming store.
They did. And
they're now closing the Ouya. They might be, shuffling funds so we just get that toaster. Or
finally, I think they're just moving on to different projects. Basically, like, how Razer Respawn and launched, just gathering resources. Because I didn't even remember that console existed.
Well, the question is,
I thought it died a long time ago.
So are we going to ever see something? This was when the console came out with the Ouya, it was like one of those things where it's like, oh, we're kickstarting this. This is going to be a Kickstarter project. This is going to be, not have to do with Nintendo, Sony. This will be great. Look how it looks, you know? And then it came out, and it was like, oh, the thing that everyone else has is developers who put effort into this.
Yeah.
And this one, like, the controller didn't feel well from what I heard, and the store had a lack of stuff. Like, the best games were the ones where it didn't require you to be serious. And I think it was like something like a frog game, like everyone was a fan of, where you like could do explosions with your frog and stuff like that.
I felt bad for them when they were launching, because if anything, even like Steam, even theirs failed too. It's
the Steam, what was it?
I remember what it's
Steam
called.
Link?
I remember that controller was ghastly. But it's you're competing. The only way Microsoft was able to get into the console whole situation is because they were Microsoft and they had that much money to do it already.
Yeah, and like you knew they probably didn't have a profit if they weren't like really gonna be good. Like they had to.
You're fighting with companies who kind of have a lock on that market.
Mm-hmm.
It was Sega, Nintendo for a long time.
Okay. So
and Sony slipped in somehow.
We see Ouya, which was Kickstarter backed. It had millions of dollars. I don't know that much about Panic, as discussed earlier, regarding the Firewatch publishers, if they are gonna have as much money invested into this crank. It is a handheld thing, but it's like one of those things where it's like, is it a more novelty thing, or could we legitimately see like some great games on this that were like, oh hey, this is a new thing for Playdate?
It looks like kind of like a Game and Watch situation. Some a little bit of time to maybe pass some time, or not like a serious gaming session.
Mm-hmm.
They play it off too. It's like a play date. It's just something quick that you can maybe pull out your pocket. Kind of like it looks to me like it's like the game of fidget spinners. It gives you something to do in a quick moment while you're bored and you don't have anything else on you. And then you can put it back in your pocket to get on with your time.
Yeah, that's fair. Compared to like the Ouya, which was trying to sell itself as like a home console thing.
It was trying to compete with the other consoles as a new console that came on the market.
But yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe also closing down shop, and this is maybe we're just speculating here, is Nippon Ichi. The developer's more well known for the Disgaea series. A report by Game Informer, citing Japanese site Havi, says that they can no longer pay employees and have taken to raise emergency funds by shifting stock.
Ooh.
Yeah. Recently they just released, I think, the Disgaea 4 remake or something like that.
I thought those games were doing well.
Well, here's the thing. Their latest one was a mobile game that was in Japan, and it did poorly. And it seems like those Disgaea's ones are just like one of those. When we talk about games and franchises, like when it comes to RPG ones, we're not like, oh, Disgaea. We're like Final Fantasy, Star Ocean. Like, then if you ask me, hey, what are some great series of JRPGs? Final Fantasy, Star Ocean, I think, Chrono Trigger, even though that's one game, Wild Arms, Star Ocean, Ni no Kuni. Disgaea does not pop in my mind, and I have played those games. It's one where it's like, oh yeah, Disgaea, yeah, they're there. Even Fire Emblem comes up before, and they're the same type of game too.
I think what hurt them is the fact that, because if I remember correctly, Disgaea was a big title for the PSP, and over there it was good for them to do a mobile version because they're a very mobile society, and not a lot of space for having just home consoles and stuff. That's why the Switch does so well, because you can just get up and go. And I feel like it hurt them that they was just a mobile game. If it was,
according to
over here in America, it's hard to sell that. Yeah,
according to Game Informer, the game launched on March 19th and was only out for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's sad. That was a good studio.
Yeah, I don't say they're closing down. They're doing some weird. I don't know how to say it, but it's just like they're doing emergency fundraising.
Yeah.
And who knows? I don't know if they're owned by someone or not. I could totally see like Level 5 do that thing with Concept. Who was that? Keiji Unafuna's studio, where they just pick it up, or some other studio picks them up.
Hopefully.
I hope, yeah.
I got faith they can still design good games.
Because I do think the Disgaea games are good. They're just not like super memorable, if you know what I mean.
No, and I mean the hardest part selling over here is that you would only buy it on the console or the PSP.
Yeah.
A lot of people, especially gamer-based people over here, like who are full-on gaming, who would play that game, wouldn't get it on their cell phone. And then cell phone people,
which is weird because tactical games feel like one of those that are better mobile, you know? And like I said, it's weird. They're shifting some stock around to raise the funds. Speaking of market share woes, GameStop. Okay, this story has been developing for a while, and even after we've heard this, GameStop is having trouble with the new sales of their first part of the fiscal 2019 year. They fell under the analyst estimate of about $90 million. While there is a lot of share decline and market shifting, but we can actually see the results of this along with GameStop's decision via closing down ThinkGeek.com, where you could get some geek article of clothing and memorabilia. While ThinkGeek says they aren't shutting down, there has been reports of layoffs, and ThinkGeek is moving to GameStop.com. Physical stores of ThinkGeek will still remain open. It was a very weird statement. And yeah, like I said, there is a lot of like share declining and market shifting and stuff like that, but you can actually see the effect here.
They're fighting a moving market. I'm pretty sure most of their services now are people just coming into trading old games.
Well, that's the weird thing is because their business relies morely on, hey, we're going to sell you these pre-owned ones, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's that trading kind of thing. It feels like a swap meet for games.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because, I mean, growing up, I used to go to GameStop.
Yeah.
To get my games. All the time. But now it's readily available for me to download it onto my hard drive and play it like that. Or if I want like a hard case or something, instead of getting up and going to the store, you could Amazon it, prime it the next day.
Yeah, I mean, there's only few chances where I'm like, oh, so the last time I can remember like actively going to GameStop for a reason was I wanted something the day of. I went to go get it, which was like an Xbox adapter for a wireless controller. Mm-hmm. And then before was I was with some friends and I was like, yo, do you want to get The World Ends With You? It's a great game. And they're like, oh, they're not having a GameStop. We went to GameStop.
They have it.
It's like, oh, hey, cool.
That's the weirdest part about it.
It's one of those things like I haven't gone in to trade my games when I'm like...
Because you ain't getting nothing for them.
Yeah, well, not only that, but like I did the Marie Kondo way kind of too, of like getting rid of some games. But I wasn't just, oh, hey, let me get rid of these games here. I was like, hey, I know a couple friends who want them, which I know Marie Kondo says do not put it on your friends. But I'm like, I know they're gamers. They gonna want them. I know one friend wanted Destiny because no one plays that. First one, not the second.
I'm gonna keep this note here. When it's free to play in September, he's gonna play.
I'm just saying the first one no one wanted to play. Second one now everyone's playing.
What? The first one.
Anyways, but I also went to another local game shop that gave me quite a bit of money for my stuff. Like I came in with all these games, dropped it down. They're like, so how much do you want for that? I was like, I don't know, because I'm expecting like $10 because of GameStop, you know? And they're like, how about 60? It's like, that's more than I came with. Let's do it, you know?
Yeah, they just have a lot of avenues of competition now. And for like ThinkGeek used to be like the only place you could get stuff like that. But now all over the internet, you can get stuff. You have custom stuff. You can get stuff for cheaper. You can get stuff that ThinkGeek doesn't have.
Like half the time you can find something on Etsy, eBay, Fangamer.com. What's the other one that I'm thinking of? Those real life loot boxes. What are those called?
Oh, Loot Crate.
Loot Crate, thank you. Loot crates, and then all the different kinds of loot crates, because that industry is there's huge. Like 5 or 7 different ones. There's, you know, if you want stuff for styling, you can have this one, or like of what guys do, or like of all these kind of male grooming products, you know. If you want something for like Harry Potter wise, you can have this one. Here's a comic based one. Here's this one, you know. It's like, wow.
It's saturated at the point.
It's saturated, but at the same time, it's like this is all stuff you can find, and this is all nerdy memorabilia that I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have Loot Crate, but, you know, if I wanted some nerd memorabilia, like, I would do Loot Crate or something.
That's why it makes it hard for them. 90 million, though. I don't know if that number is just... Is that a business estimate that they just messed up on? They threw numbers out
I don't
and
know.
Expected this to happen, and, like unrealistic numbers?
I know they're trying to do other stuff, but it's like it's very hard for them to compete, I think, in this industry. At least at this point so do you know the story about Kodak? Where they're like, they had a digital camera.
Oh, yeah.
but they didn't want to push it.
Yeah.
And thought like, oh, film is going to be better or something like that.
They always thought film, they didn't want to evolve with the times and the changes.
Yeah. And that's what it feels like GameStop happened to them. It's like, yo, you guys see what's going on right now. Find a way to do digital distribution. Find a way to get into the digital storefront or something, you know?
They have a way, and it's just, it's not a good look. You can buy a code from them at GameStop, but you have to go get the code from them at the physical location. And then go back home and then release it. So it makes it even worse because say if you got the digital code, the game releases, you can go pick it up at 9 because it's midnight. You gotta get the code, then come back, then download it. But now you can just download it, preload it, ready to play, 9 o'clock. Just go.
Yeah, like the games will just download right away. Like, oh, hey, you know what? Let me buy let me get the 2-disc Final Fantasy 7. But let me do that on my console. I have a big enough hard drive because, you know, reasons and stuff. And it's like, okay.
And it loads quicker. It's this many factors they're fighting with.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know how 90 million was like the estimate, but it's one of those, what did you think GameStop did? You know? Or whoever the analyst was like, GameStop, that must be the only place that everyone can go to. And even that
they go
itself
there for games.
Even that is wrong because I've heard like midnight releases don't just happen at GameStop. Because I remember one of my friends was telling me, hey, I went to, you know, pick up my Pokemon, I think it was X and Y one time, and it was midnight release at Target next to the GameStop.
You can go to Target.
And Target
you can go
had pizza
to Walmart.
too. Target had pizza for the people waiting in line.
What?
Yeah, and they were like, hey, who wants
I'm way more inclined to go to Target then.
Yeah, and it's like Target, because it was midwinter. I think it was Pokemon XY. It was a midwinter game. And they were like, yeah, by the way, because GameStop has you wait in line outside.
Yeah.
Target, they were like, you can come in,
because there's a whole other part of the store you can be in.
According to them, they said, oh, Target has pizza and like hot cocoa or something like that.
It's just it's too many places. They used to have the market on that for midnight release. You just show up at the GameStop, but now you can go Target, Walmart, any place that has a gaming section that they do it now. And
even I'm not that much of a fan of midnight release because even if you buy a game, you still have to go and wait in the line for it, and then just be like, oh, here it is. And yeah, it's arguably quicker, but at the same time, it's like, I don't like people sometimes.
Can't stand people.
No, it's not like I can't stand them. It's just like,
you know, sometimes
I want to play the game. I want
to play the game. I just want to get out there. I don't want to wait in line all day to get this game.
Like, I can feel like, you know, back in the day, like
it's a sign you're just getting older. You know, a lot of times you don't.
I feel like back in the day, like of early days of GameStop, you know, you could wait outside and make new friends that way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're local, it feels like a very 90s thing of like, oh, hey, you know, we're going to the game shop, get this, you know. It's like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and these guys are just been able
I mean,
to
now
survive.
you're more inclined to just pick it up the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I'm not going to wait in this line or wait for these people.
Yeah. Next, here's one thing. So the internet has a lot of mixed feelings regarding the exclusivity of games on the Epic Game Store. Epic's been getting a lot of them. They had the PC gaming show, which we didn't really cover because it's not a press conference. The kind of funny indie game thing, we didn't cover that either because that's not a press conference or like it was indie games. But I think Epic actually sponsored PC gaming thing.
And they did the PC game. I watched PC gaming.
Well, according to an interview with PC Games, THQ Nordic's CEO says that Epic Game Store has exceeded our expectation in terms of sale and actual units of both Metroid Exodus and Satisfactory ... is in fact the group's leading digital platform in terms of revenue generated by unit sales in the quarter.
I'm going to chalk that up to that the loudest individuals aren't the ones who wanted the most change.
You know what?
I feel like the most people that complained about it
Yeah.
were actually people who were going to go use it. Because what this shows is basically the same way with negativity. Everybody heard the loud people be like, "Oh, I don't like this," but a lot of people didn't care, and they're like, "I'm just gonna get my game and play it."
Well, the other thing is, remember that the big thing about the Epic Game Store when it was announced was, "Hey, we are having this price. we are competing with Steam. We're going to say, hey, if you come over here, you get this much money. And even if you use the Unreal Engine, you get even more money from us, and we only take a small cut, you know, which can help in the sales. I think that's one thing that definitely helped them. And the exclusivity also helped because they're like, hey, we're also getting a big price, but we cut our audience.
They're making big boss moves, and they're working well with companies to create revenue for both of them.
Well, it's funny. Like, at first when this came out, everyone was like, oh, this is amazing. Because then Discord also threw their hands like, yo, 90% or something like that.
Yeah.
Ichigo was like, yo, we've been doing this the whole time. Mm-hmm. And Epic's like, we'll stop exclusivity if Steam wants to play this game, you know? Which is a very funny kind of like... So I have this thing. I believe everyone's like up in arms, and I think it was you who told me like this is because everyone doesn't want exclusivity on PC stuff. Pretty much. They want the PC is one of those huge collection things.
They want to be able to download it from wherever they feel like they want to download it.
Yeah, but for me, I come into this view of like competition is good. I like when that whole 1980s like Sega does what Nintendo don't. Like, I want that again.
Sega does and Nintendo don't.
Like, I want that again because I don't want I don't want like all-in-one console or something. Give me the competition because that's gonna put the best of them.
All there was for a long time was Steam. It was all there was Steam and only Steam.
And you kind of had Humble Bundle, but they weren't really competing. They were just like, hey, if you want the exe file, we can give you that. It's no DRM. GOG came in and was like, we're super against Steam. Because we don't want DRM. We have the old games. You are free from DRM.
Mm-hmm. And then Epic came in and was like, look, guys, I ain't playing this game no more. Give me the market. Which they can do that because it's funny. Most of the games, a lot of games are made off their engine.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it was smart of them to make a store off of that.
It was very smart for them to like also have the biggest game right now, Fortnite. And then release it, and then they also put out Dauntless, which people are playing, and it's like, yeah, you're still gonna go, like, I don't think people realize how many people actually did have the Epic Game Store launcher.
Yeah.
For, you know, what's it called? Fortnite.
Yeah. And so a lot of people had the Epic Game Store launcher just because before I had Fortnite or even Dauntless, before there was games to get on it, I had it because I had the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
For creating assets and games and stuff. Just learn about it. And then that gets attached onto it. So when you launch it, you can go either way. You can go do your development, or you'll see the games that are out right now. You can buy those too.
I mean,
it's nicely set up.
It's one of those where it's like, it's just a funny thing where I don't think we're gonna see exclusivity dying anytime soon.
No,
especially like if THQ Nordic's coming out and saying, "Yo, this is actually great for us," you know, to the point where it's like more companies will say, "Hey, can we be exclusive?" or something like that, you know.
It's just weird it's coming to the PC market because they never had to deal with it having to buy a Sega or a Nintendo or a PlayStation or an Xbox.
Yeah.
But it's easy. It's a service you download. That's not that hard to do. You don't got to pay for the Epic Store. You can have the Epic Store and the Steam Store.
Remember, it doesn't take that much space. It's just the games you download is what takes space, not anything else.
Sure, your friend list changes from your Steam friends and everything. Maybe I think that would be the hardest part, is that if you want to play along with friends from that playlist. But then you got Discord servers to set up for stuff. You have many different ways to chat with people and play along with them in these games.
GOG is actually working on GOG Galaxy 2.0, which they're trying to do. Like, I don't know if this is going to work, but they want to do a huge collection of like, oh, if you're going to play your games, here's your one massive store. Or not massive store, like one place that you can be. And maybe it jumps to the other launchers or something like that, you know?
Yeah,
I can see that, you know?
Like
it's like
you
have to
cross-play for PC
it's like,
and the servers.
What's the thing? It's like a management thing. I could see it working. Like, hey, you'll still have to download Steam, Epic Games, log in and stuff. But then if you launch this one, it's like, oh, which games you want? You could see your whole library section or stuff like that. If the other companies play nice or whatever, you know, I don't see why not. If it's not like GOG's like, yeah, you should really just do this, you know, or something. But yeah,
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's. I honestly think the exclusivities are fine. Very curious to see what our viewers think though on this, because this is one of the big things. Anytime I hear exclusivity or stuff like that, I always hear there's some kind of backlash. I don't follow that many
I
people,
just think
so
people hear exclusivity, so they're just like, I don't want to be told where I must go do things. Mostly.
Yeah, it's...
Or if you have any personal problems with Epic, because a lot of people hate Epic for Fortnite, which I'm just like, you can't hate a company for a game.
They're doing
that's just
really well.
Weird.
It's like
a game that's doing really well that you're just going to hate on because it's doing so well. May not be your cup of tea, but you cannot deny the success that game has had.
Yeah.
And you can't hate them for that.
There was, I can't remember who it was. I probably have said this before there, but there was something where I was like, oh, I hate that you're doing this, you know? I really hate that you're doing this. But marketing-wise, this is really smart, which, you know, good for you. This is one of your best moves ever. I can't hate you for capitalism going.
Oh, it was Epic.
That was Epic?
In one of our first podcasts.
Oh, okay.
It was Epic. Doing this move when the Metro move where they stole it from the Steam store.
No, I think I've said it for something else, too. I can't remember.
It's in one of these.
Yeah. Well, correct me if it is. If it's not, oh well. And our last story. Recently, before E3, there was a massive walkout at Riot Games. This was to protest several of Riot's employee policies. One was forced arbitration. Now, arbitration is a process where you cannot sue the company via our legal system, but instead have a private process where a neutral arbiter award decisions. Now, this may seem like an alright process of negotiation, but there is an issue, where many companies have the same arbitrator in multiple cases, which basically is like having an argument with your partner and their best friend Steve is the one that has to decide who wins. Now, while Riot has admitted that both parties must agree on arbitration and that Riot will pay all costs of the arbitrator, there are still some issues such as limited amount of recourse. So if there's a decision made based on this and that the employee doesn't feel is fair, tough luck. Now, the other thing is that this means employees can no longer sue for violation of employment laws, which include rest times, discrimination, which Riot has had repeated sexism allegations along with actually being sued, unjust dismissal, privacy protection, and both overtime pay and minimum wage. As this is forced, this means that all employees are mandated to take this. Now, Riot hasn't responded, but what they say is future employees can opt out of arbitration, but cannot extend that to those currently employed due to ongoing litigation.
Sounds like fancy paperwork at that point. How can the future people be out, but...
future people can opt out or choose to do that, but like the current massive employees do not have that.
I feel that's a little weird to have in a contract. It seems like you're already setting up that you're going to do something that I can't get legal justice for.
Yeah, and it is one thing where it's like, you were the one that sent me something that was like, yo, they're really pulling damage control for this because they're putting out what's it called? New.
Oh, they were having women in coding like convention like this past weekend.
Yeah.
And they were putting it on their page and everything going through. And I was like, man, it's like your business runs on two different sides of things.
Yeah, and by the way, all the info I found of such a word.
Arbitration?
Arbitration is easily found on the American Bar Association and Economic Policy Institute websites, and we'll put the links down there so you can also see where our sources are, or somewhere like that. But yeah, it's just one of those things where the question is, this is pretty much a bad thing. Like, no one really wants this because of that. Hey, we can't really sue. Who knows if this will come up in the lawsuit of like, hey, maybe these people who are suing Riot had arbitration, or in some way they didn't bring this up during the arbitrator, and that way they can sue after about something like this, or something to a lawyer or something of that nature.
Hey, they might get sued after.
Because the weird thing is it's one current employee as well. And there's several things about like their whole sexual harassment and stuff where they even said one of the male slogans was, no doesn't necessarily mean no.
I mean, I've heard from people, the very bro culture that they have over there.
Yeah, that was as a company slogan for a while. And yeah, he was. Oh yeah, when according to this, it was the Verge article, by the way, of League of Legends Riot Games sued for gender discrimination. It was the lawsuit. Riot co-founder Brandon Beck used the phrase "no" doesn't necessarily mean no as a company slogan. When a male employee explained that it was a rape joke, he was later informed that his time at the company was limited and he had to leave shortly after. There's not much here that we can say other than this. This is bad. This is a bad thing that's going on, and this is not something you want to hear, especially from Riot, like League of Legends. Yeah, you hear bro culture, but what can...
Because it's crazy something like that. Like, that dude just got fired for calling him out.
Yeah.
And
so the question is, what can we do as consumers to help this? Other than voice that, hey, we also support this, Riot. Like, it's that thing of, like, whenever someone's like, oh, I'm not going to play Facebook, you know? Or I'm not going to be on Facebook because they do this thing with, you know, the selling our data. And it's just like, so yeah, cool, you don't do it.
Cool.
But that's not going to change anything. You're not doing anything. And you're mostly saying, oh, I'm not going to play the game.
Yeah.
And like, it's League of Legends is one of those big things where it's going to be very hard for someone to be like, I'm not playing the game. Riot doesn't care about you, you know? You're not their biggest League of Legends. It would have to be the big League of Legends, but what can normal people do other than voice their opinion? And I'm honestly not sure, other than say, hey, you know, we stand by with your Riot employees and stuff like this.
Bring attention to it. That's about it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is hopefully, you know, do more attention, get this bigger than it is, and also do some research, because like I was looking between it. It doesn't seem like a bad thing, you know, when you think about it. It's like, oh, hey, we're going to just take this one person and we're going to talk it out. We don't need to go to the courts, you know, and see what we can do. But then the more you look into it, it's like, hey, the company actually gets a lot of power versus this, you know, and they like the pros are like, hey, you know, we don't have to put all this evidence. We don't have to do this whole trial that takes a while, you know. We can just do one day, you know.
Yeah.
Like one of the pros, because I looked up like pros and cons on this, was that it is shorter, you know.
It is shorter, pretty much what it usually works out to. It ends up being shorter. You end up not having to pay anything, but you pretty much lose your say to say anything against said company. There are many companies, other companies that do this also, and it's kind of like a somewhat of a hush contract. It's like, oh, this went down. It was bad.
Yeah.
You didn't like it. Well, probably take the settlement. Never talk about it again.
Yeah, both parties must agree on the arbitrator. I'm just looking again. Plaintiff can hire a lawyer of their choosing, which means, you know, they could, maybe that's how this got around. They hired a lawyer like the former and then something. Once again, it's very weird, the law.
Hey, man, that's companies' money. They hire lawyers to whoop you and help them.
There is no confidentiality clause, which means the plaintiff can communicate about their suit against the company in the same ways they could in court. Allowed fulsome discovery, and agreement does not limit damage, which means there's no cap on total potential damages award or types of damages awarded. For example, punitive or consequential damage. That is the statement Riot put out. And then they also have like a bunch of like their culture initiatives and stuff like that. Now, while that thing you sent me was very much a, what was it called?
I believe it was Women in Coding.
Women in Coding. I've heard of that organization before. I'm not gonna say they're bad or good. It's they could do a really good thing, and that's smart. And I really do hope more women get into coding, and we see more game developers and stuff like that who are female. You know,
that's basically what it's built around, to get more recognition for women in that culture in coding and video games and
it's one of those things where it's nice that Riot is inviting them, but it, yeah, like you said, it definitely feels like, again, damage control or something of that nature, where it's like, hey, look at what we're doing. We're letting these ladies come in.
It feels very much like that. As
yeah,
the company
we're letting
who
these
always,
ladies come in.
As a company that always gets dinged for stuff like that, Dawson. Yeah, I mean, they could be trying to turn a new leaf and try to really show, but it also comes off kind of like, hey, see? I'm going to make a really... Nah. I wouldn't make that...
It's one of those things where it's... What could Riot, like... Because then it's like, what could Riot do to make it better? And it's like, well, get us all out, force arbitration, and don't sexual harass us. It's pretty simple, you know? Like, you want people to come out there being like, you know, that contract was fine, you know?
It was Girls Who Code. That's what it's
Girls
called.
Who Code, yeah.
Yeah, Riot Games partners with Girls Who Code and donates 500 copies. That's.
But yeah,
I will say this though: if you're gonna try to start over and turn a new leaf because you've been called out for stuff repeated like that a lot of times, it's the first way you're gonna have to start doing things. And yeah, people are gonna take flack at you. But as long as you continue that path to show that you are actually trying to change,
they have to continue. Is the thing. It sounds like there was some wording on some stuff where it's like, okay, I don't know if you're legitimately going to change or is this doing damage control. Your lawsuit might kick something, but, you know, League is one of the biggest games in the world right now where it's like, I honestly don't know what to say about it. It's like,
no, they get away with a lot of stuff for that game being as big as it is.
So
hopefully, have to look further down the road and see how that changes.
Hopefully, we're able to at least let you guys know that this is what's going on with Riot. Try to make it a little clear. I know that whole new lawsuit, for me, that made it confusing. You know, like, wait, how do you sue someone if you're in arbitration clause? But yeah, that's what the walkout's about. Expect some more. I hear there is another plan that the Riot staff is making or something like that. They've said, hey, we're disappointed with how Riot is handling this, so we'll see what we're doing. We just want to make sure everyone's safe and still has their job kind of thing. So they're trying to be careful.
I feel like they're a company that had some lofty goals and they just have some inner bad eggs, just like other people that really stick out in higher positions of management, that it's kind of just messing it up for everybody.
But yeah, so if you guys have any ideas of what we could do as a consumer to, or any way to spread this or anything at all to try to support, I don't know, like when you're telling the news, you're trying not to take a side, but at some point when you discuss it and think about your own thoughts, like I think that's my goal here is to, you know, say here's what's going on and this is my side, which is I'm with the Riot employees. So if you guys can think of anything, leave it in the comments below. I think you're on the same side as me on this one.
As an employee.
Yeah. And
employee rights.
Yeah. If you guys know any stories that we missed during E3 that are also pretty big and heavy, leave them down in the comments below. If any games we miss, go ahead, leave it. What's up?
I know something we missed.
What's up? The Amazon firing like half their gaming and closing a studio. I was aware of that.
No, that's not what I was talking about. Because that does have a background. They did tell everybody. It's just unfortunate that it falls around the same time that they were going to fire everybody. But they did let everybody know they were going to fire them.
Okay.
They didn't just magically pop up and tell them. But, I mean, the dating and time of that's just a little weird that you waited close to the biggest gaming expo in the world to just, all right, guys, get out. But we forgot to mention.
What's up?
Especially even on the other one. Phantasy Star Online.
You want to talk about that in the non-E3 thing?
Phantasy Star Online. That was missed. It was missed at E3. Don't have to go into depth at it.
Yeah. No, Phantasy Star Online 2 was announced at Microsoft press conference. We just didn't go into it that much.
We didn't. We missed it.
You say, but I meant like other news that happened during E3 that was industry style, or that we should have covered. We might do something and cover them or talk about them and see what you guys have to say. So yeah, leave your comments in the comments down below. Leave your comments in the comment section down below.
Leave your comments and wherever.
Share this video if you guys like it. Like I said, this is probably a little shorter than our usual stuff, but yeah, this was just something we wanted to do to talk about some more news. Other than that, thanks you guys for watching. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button, share it, and hit that bell icon to be notified. I'm Jose.
It's Adrian Michael Hill.
Yep. See you guys next time.
Alrighty.